Where's the camera? There you are. Good morning, everyone. It is a Friday. As you can see, we're quite happy. Let me just move some stuff on the spare monitor over here. And let's put the music over there. We're playing some music in the background. You can hear it. I'll add it later. I need to not rub against the microphone when drinking coffee. We need to plug in the Wacom and get ready for a little session drawing. All right, we got Aseprite up and running. Let's see, am I maybe too big? Oh, anyway, let's not think too much about video. I've had so many thoughts about video this week. Today I am recording a little intro for another time-lapse video for the 10 people or so that are watching. Why are there two guys in blue? So today started my journey moving away from iMovie on the Mac. And the reason I want to, well, the reason is always very simple. I've been getting very frustrated with iMovie on the Mac. Why is it that on my iPhone and iPad, iMovie is more than sufficient and can put out files in 4K? But on the Mac, it is stuck in 2010. It has extra features which are awesome. Like you can do time lapses and just multiply, 20 times if you want instead of 2. But you cannot render beyond 1080p, which is enough for some videos. I just got very frustrated with it. So I started looking at Final Cut Pro, but that's $300, which I'm sure it's worth it. It's just not $300 I have right now, as I'm saving up for a big trip in September. But more about that in the vlog. And I had a look around on the internet, found some of those like the best video editing software for 2025, and the same names kept coming up. There's Final Cut Pro, which is starting to show its age. There's Adobe Premiere, but I can't stand Adobe anymore after they ripped me off for an entire year subscription after I had been subscribed for an entire year and unsubscribed like 2 months after. And there is DaVinci Resolve. So DaVinci Resolve is interesting, but apparently it's complicated, but it's free. So I decided to take the plunge this week, and it's been, I would have to say, at least 2 days of solid learning to find where all the usual stuff is that you'd find in an editing suite. And and I managed to make a time lapse, and I have some thoughts I'd like to share with you in case you're also making YouTube videos and you want to make time lapses for art like this. Now, if you do, please leave a message and say hi in the comments so I can look at your time-lapse videos. So it's about, you need about 10 gigs to install, which I barely have left on my main drive, which is the first problem I ran into, which is a problem I've been running into for the longest time. I don't know where my hard drive space goes. When I actually have a look for my hard drive, for all the stuff that takes up room on my hard drive, to be honest, there's a lot of stuff. Like there's like shared profiles, which I don't have, but which are taking up space, and I've tried to get rid of. And there's Apple's digital something that they do where they scan and then they just have these files piling up. And there's something mysterious called system data, which is something that they do behind the scenes, which just takes up your whole hard drive space. Anything that's left, they just gobble it up, to the point that my iCloud drive is no longer connected and I can't seem to reconnect it because there's not enough space to sync. It's incredibly frustrating. But I managed to install DaVinci Resolve and get going. what has been interesting is, of course, lots of bells and whistles. Very cool. And also like the structure of the program, like how they go from like you have a cut page and you have an edit page for fine-tuning your edit and sound and everything. There's a separate sound page, there's a separate coloring page. So there's all these sections of the program where you don't have to get confused, you just never have to go there. You can just completely ignore it, which is awesome. What is not awesome is that when I finally started taking out pauses in my time-lapse and speeding things up, I ran into a lot of slowdown. And I don't know if that's because I have only 10 gigs left. I managed to optimize following some YouTube videos, and as I optimized, I ran into the next problem, which is I optimized files to the tune of 300 gigs on my spare hard drive, which was now also full. So I ran out of space again. So I'm kind of making this time lapse so I can make a new edit and then see if these new optimizations are working and it speeds things along, or my M1 Mac Mini, which should be more than powerful enough, without the SSD on the local hard drive, it is not. And I've actually moved all the projects to the external SSD, so everything should be happening over there. But clearly there's a bottleneck that I'm running into that I'm not happy about. But at least I tried, you know, and it cost me 2 days. 2 days of solid learning. And there's loads more to learn that I'm excited about. And I definitely want to do a little bit more editing, because editing is fun. It's just incredibly time consuming. So enough about the technical issues. This is my art. Pretty happy with it. So in last week's time lapse, what I end up doing is the following. Let me just show you my trick. First, Command apostrophe shows the grid in Aseprite. So I'm going 16 by 16. The art that I started off with, so this over here and this over here, is actually all the way down here. This is from an art pack, as is this, by an artist called Asemuth. I'm probably butchering his name right now. I'll be sure to put another link down below. Maybe I'll show it up on screen if I can. And he's an awesome artist, very much inspired by the Mega Drive Genesis era of video games from the 90s that I'm fond of as well. Just 8-bit, 16-bit. And I'm using his asset pack, which I bought over on itch.io, to make my own art, because I didn't know how to get started and everything looked terrible. As you can see, some of my own art over here still looks terrible. But I managed to expand on it into something that I quite like over here. And doing so, I started having these thoughts about layering in Unreal Engine, because I'm making a little adventure game in Unreal Engine 5. But then I decided to hold back and okay, let's just focus on actually making a game and not getting too technical. We can always make another game and get more technical with what we learned in this one, Harden. So one of the ways that I tried to be a little smart, I had thoughts of, am I going to import one giant piece of art in Unreal Engine and just plop it down, and then that's the background, set up collision, that's going to be the level, right? I could do that, and it should be able to handle that with ease. But of course, these games were built with TimeLapse originally, and that would allow me to make a much bigger game at lower cost, tech cost. But it is going to be a little bit more time consuming, because I'm going to have to think more along the lines of this grid. And I'm also going to have to learn how to import. Now, importing, I can import this as is, and then have Unreal Engine actually chop things up and make those separate tiles. But then I have to rebuild what you see here in a tile map for a level. But of course, I can make many. And since I can make many, I started thinking about these tiles. Let me just highlight them again. And I started thinking, like, how can I make more and make sure they connect to as many as possible? So I started doing this. Let me just remove this one. See? These alt tiles are alternative tiles. And then I drop these green ones on a separate layer and these red tiles on another separate layer, just to keep track. Because when I paint on top, it's very easy to draw on top of what is beneath and then forget that that is not in the current layer tile. So the bright colors allow me to recognize what is missing and what needs to be filled in. So I think that's a pretty cool technique. Ah, okay. So there's a green one on the red tile. Okay, I was starting to freak out for a second. So some of these I copied over here, made them different, added adjacent tiles that are different, and then on a separate layers, right? Made more. Repeat the process. So I guess if I'm thinking about it out loud anyway, I'm gonna have to take these down for a second. I'm going to have to take a single layer as a single image, put it in Unreal Engine 5, chop it up, make those into tiles, then the next layer, chop those up, put them into tiles, rebuild them up. That's the plan for the future, so stay tuned, hit like and subscribe, follow along, see how far I get the month of July. I've been working on this game for quite some time now. It is kind of my spare project hobby while living in Manila in the Philippines, working a day job at an office, very secure and stable, with oh so much excitement. Alright, so yesterday I was here. So another thing I'd like to talk about very quickly is, besides what I'm doing here, I've actually got an iPad. And I take this to work for quiet times. I paint on it at night, sometimes just on the couch because I want to be on the couch. But there's actually separate artwork in here that I'll have to show you. Well, I could just quickly. So these are separate experiments, just completely from the ground up. No inspiration from asset packs in the file. But I actually thought, what if I could just bring this one along? So it turns out this Pixsquare or the iPad can't handle very large files. So what I'm doing is already too much. It already has trouble handling it. So I had to crop things down. And yeah, I am trying to figure out how could I just grab a chunk. So I thought I'd make a screenshot. But then the screenshot is the size of the monitor and not actual pixel art. So everything is blown out of proportion, and when I shrink it down, it then ruins the image. So that did not work. So I have to find a way, which I guess I could copy, make a new file in Asprite, and export-import that file from Asprite into Pixsquare. They are compatible, so that should work. Because that would be cool, right? Like, taking this with me on the go. That would be very cool. Ah, don't do that. I would like to continue with this one. Maybe we can just make a path here. So, and then maybe we can make a path that plays nice with these tiles. So let's see if we can... Can't remember if in Unreal you can rotate and flip tiles when you place them on the tile map. Anyway, let's just get this one going, shall we? And just make something random. So I'm gonna go into time-lapse mode. See you on the other side.